You know that feeling when you're scrolling through yet another cybersecurity headline and your eyes just sort of glaze over?
Mm-hmm.
It's just this constant stream, right? New threats, breaches.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it can feel like way too much information.
It really can. Total overload sometimes.
Well, this deep dive is designed to cut through some of that noise for you.
Exactly. We're not just, recapping the latest scary news story.
Right.
We're taking a focused look at the future of cybersecurity, what's coming down the pipeline, the emerging tech that'll shape threats and defenses.
Right. We've been digging into episode 6 of the cybersecurity threat landscape, which is all about these emerging technologies in the field.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
So think of this as your quick guide to understanding the really significant shifts we're seeing on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today really is to bring some clarity to these complex topics, highlight what truly matters without getting totally lost in the weeds,
Makes sense. Clarity is key here.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where should we start? AI seems like the obvious one.
Yeah, let's start with artificial intelligence. As our source material really highlights, AI in cybersecurity is definitely a double-edged sword,
Right.
but maybe sharper and faster than any sword we've seen before.
Absolutely. On one side, you've got this incredible potential for attackers. I mean, imagine phishing emails that aren't just generic spam,
Oh, yeah.
but are hyper-personalized. They know exactly what buttons to push for you specifically to get you to click.
Terrifying, really.
And the episode mentioned how AI could power malware that isn't static, right? It can actually adapt, learn.
Exactly. Constantly changing its signature to try and evade traditional defenses. That's a pretty big shift in the attacker's toolkit.
It really is.
And then there's the automation aspect, the ability of AI to automate vulnerability discovery. That's also a major change.
So finding weaknesses faster.
Much faster. Attackers could use AI to rapidly scan for weaknesses in vast numbers of systems at a speed and scale that just wasn't possible before, not with human-driven methods anyway.
Wow. Okay. That changes the game in terms of exposure. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? Because the other edge of that AI sword,
Yeah.
it's being used by the defenders too.
Precisely. Yes. AI offers significant advantages for defenders as well.
How so? What does that look like?
Well, think about the sheer volume of data modern security systems have to process every single day. It's immense.
Right. Unmanageable for humans alone.
Totally. AI algorithms can analyze these massive data sets, spot subtle anomalies, find patterns that a human analyst might just miss because of the sheer scale.
So it's like having a superpowered analyst who never sleeps.
Kind of, yep.
And can spot the faintest hint of trouble in, a mountain of data.
In a way, yes. And AI can also be used to predict potential attacks.
How?
By identifying early warning signs, indicators that often pop up before malicious activity really ramps up.
Okay, interesting.
And maybe most crucially, AI is being used to automate incident response.
So reacting faster.
Essentially acting as that always-on, highly efficient security analyst who can react to threats in real time, potentially neutralizing them before they cause significant damage.
So it sounds like we're in this constant race. But unlike, previous security battles, this AI arms race, it's defined by algorithmic speed and huge data sets.
That's a really key point. The speed and adaptability of AI defenses need to be just as dynamic.
Because the old ways don't work.
Right. Traditional rule-based systems, they really struggle against AI-powered attacks that can learn and evolve on the fly.
So we need AI fighting AI, basically.
It necessitates a shift towards more sophisticated AI-driven security tools. Tools that can understand context and adapt to new threats in real time.
Okay, let's pivot then. Another potentially huge technology. Quantum computing.
Ah, yes.
Now, this still feels a bit sci-fi, maybe.
Yeah.
But the implications for cybersecurity are potentially seismic.
They are indeed huge. Currently, a lot of our online security relies on encryption methods like RSA.
Right, the stuff protecting bank accounts, emails.
Exactly. And these methods work because they depend on certain math problems being really, really hard for regular computers, classical computers, to solve.
Like factoring huge numbers.
That's the classic example, yeah. Takes an incredibly long time for a normal computer.
Right. It's that difficulty that keeps our sensitive data secure.
Yeah.
But quantum computers, they kind of break that model.
That's the potential threat. Quantum computers, using qubits and quantum phenomena, can perform certain calculations in fundamentally different ways. They could potentially solve these currently difficult mathematical problems exponentially faster.
Exponentially.
Which means the encryption methods we rely on today, for everything from online banking to state secrets, they could become, well, obsolete, breakable.
That's a pretty sobering thought. The idea that years of sensitive data could suddenly become vulnerable. So what's the timeline here? Is this like next year or further out?
It's important to remember widespread, fault-tolerant quantum computers capable of breaking current encryption. They're still some way off, probably.
Okay, good.
However, as the source mentions, development in this field is happening fast. There are significant investments, big breakthroughs being announced pretty regularly.
So we can't just ignore it.
Exactly. That's why we need to be thinking about and preparing for this now. Consider this. Data encrypted today might still be valuable years from now.
So someone could harvest encrypted data now and just wait.
And wait for a quantum computer powerful enough to decrypt it later. It's called a harvest now, decrypt later attack.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's where post-quantum cryptography comes in.
Precisely, PQC. These are new encryption methods being designed specifically to withstand attacks from both classical and these future quantum computers.
So how's that development going? Are we ready?
Well, researchers are actively developing and testing new algorithms. Several promising candidates are emerging, and standardization efforts are underway. NIST is heavily involved.
But I sense a but.
But the challenge is the sheer scale of the transition. It's massive.
How so?
It won't just be a software update. It'll likely require changes to fundamental cryptographic libraries, hardware modifications in some cases, and just fundamental shifts in how we approach security across the board. Think about every device, every system that uses encryption today. It's a huge undertaking with a lot of inertia to overcome.
Yeah, that sounds like a decade-long project, easily.
At least.
Okay, so we've hit AI, quantum. Now let's step into these newer digital realms. The metaverse and Web3.
Right. Still evolving rapidly.
Yeah, very much so. But they're already presenting unique cybersecurity challenges, things beyond what we're used to, aren't they?
Absolutely. These interconnected, increasingly immersive digital spaces, they create entirely new attack surfaces.
How do you mean?
Well, think about your digital identity in these worlds, your avatar, maybe your virtual possessions like NFTs.
Right, the digital asset.
Even potentially your biometric data used for logging into VR environments. All of that becomes valuable, attractive targets for malicious actors.
So it's like our real-world worries, identity theft, property theft, just mapping onto this digital space.
Pretty much, yeah. But with potentially novel vulnerabilities tied to the specific technologies. The source mentioned things like VR headsets, NFT marketplaces.
Right. What kind of specific security issues are cropping up there?
Well, with VR headsets, for example, vulnerabilities could allow attackers to intercept sensitive data, like maybe microphone audio, or even manipulate what the user sees, maybe for phishing scams inside the virtual world.
That's insidious.
And NFT marketplaces, they're dealing with digital assets that can have significant real-world monetary value. So they're already prime targets for theft, fraud, sophisticated scams, exploiting smart contract bugs.
Yeah, we hear about those hacks quite a bit.
And the decentralized nature of many Web3 platforms, that can also introduce complexities, like who's responsible when something goes wrong? Where's the recourse for victims?
Right, no central authority to appeal to sometimes.
Yes.
So securing these new environments, it's not just about slapping existing security tools onto them. It sounds like we need a fundamentally different approach.
I think so, yeah. The source highlights the critical need for robust and secure digital identity management within these spaces.
Like, how do we prove who someone is?
Exactly. How do we truly verify identity in a decentralized virtual world? Secure management of digital assets, especially NFTs and crypto, is also paramount.
Makes sense.
And given how immersive the metaverse aims to be, user privacy and data protection take on new dimensions, especially concerning any biometric data that might be collected.
Yeah, lots to think about there. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to something that's maybe less futuristic, but deeply embedded in our lives already. The Internet of Things, IoT.
Ah, yes, the connected everything.
Right. Smartwatches, smart speakers, fridges, cars. The sheer number of these devices is just exploding.
It is, and that massive growth represents a massively expanding attack surface. That's the key security takeaway.
Why are they such a risk?
Well, the reality is many IoT devices are designed with convenience and cost as the top priorities.
And security is an afterthought.
Often, yeah, at the expense of robust security. They might lack even basic security features, ship with default, easily guessable passwords.
Still, default passwords.
Still. And they might receive infrequent or even zero security updates. Makes them relatively easy entry points into a network.
The episode gave a really clear example of this, didn't it? How a seemingly minor vulnerability can cause big problems, like a compromised smart thermostat.
Exactly. A single compromised thermostat on a home network might not seem like a huge deal on its own.
Right. What's the worst it can do? Mess with the heating.
Well, imagine a network of thousands, maybe millions of these poorly secured devices, thermostats, cameras, whatever being hijacked, and then used together to launch a massive, coordinated, distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS attack.
Overwhelming websites or services.
Exactly. Taking down critical online services, all launched from these seemingly harmless connected devices.
Wow. So that little thermostat becomes part of a botnet.
That's the core danger. They become unwitting soldiers in large-scale cyber attacks. Securing the IoT ecosystem really requires a multi-layered approach.
It can't just be the user's problem.
No. Manufacturers need to prioritize security from the design phase. Build it in, don't bolt it on. Implement stronger standards, better update mechanisms.
And developers.
Developers need to build more secure apps for these devices. And end users. Well, we do have a role. We need to be more aware of the risks.
Like changing default passwords.
Yes. Change default passwords, keep firmware updated if possible, segment networks. Basic cyber hygiene applied to these devices.
It sounds like we really need stronger baseline security standards for all IoT stuff.
We do.
And better authentication, maybe beyond just passwords. Plus, a big push for user education.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility across the entire ecosystem, from the chip manufacturer right down to you, the consumer.
Okay. So looking ahead then, based on all this AI, quantum, metaverse, IoT, the trends discussed in the episode, what are some of the broader shifts you see coming to the cybersecurity landscape?
Well, the continued, probably accelerating rise of AI in both attacks and defenses seems like a certainty.
The arms race continues.
Definitely. We'll likely see an increasing focus on cloud security, too, as more businesses migrate their operations and data there.
Which means more demand for skilled people.
For sure. A growing demand for cybersecurity professionals with specialized skills. AI, cloud security, eventually post-quantum crypto. These will be hot areas.
The episode also touched on something called the convergence of OT and IT, operational technology and information technology.
Ah, yes, that's a big one.
For someone maybe not familiar, can you break that down? What does that mean and why is it a growing concern?
Sure. Think of it like this. IT, information technology, that's your typical office network. Computers, servers, email, business applications. OT, operational technology, on the other hand, refers to the systems that control physical processes and infrastructure.
Like in factories, power grids.
Exactly. Industrial control systems in manufacturing, systems managing power grids, traffic control systems, building management systems, that kind of thing.
Okay. And traditionally they were separate.
Traditionally, yes. Many OT systems were kept isolated, air-gapped from IT networks for security reasons. Physical security was key.
But that's changing.
It is. For efficiency, for data analysis, remote management, these two worlds, IT and OT, are becoming increasingly interconnected, converging.
And that creates new risks.
Significant new vulnerabilities, yes. Because systems that were once isolated, relying on being physically separate, are now potentially accessible through IT networks.
Are generally more exposed to cyber threats.
Often, yes. Much more exposed.
And the impact of an attack there.
Yeah.
It could be huge, right? Especially with critical infrastructure.
Absolutely. The consequences could be far-reaching. We're talking about attacks that could have physical repercussions, disrupting manufacturing, causing power outages, interfering with transportation.
That dramatically increases the stakes.
It does. Attacks on these sectors can have severe real-world consequences, impacting essential services, public safety. It underscores the critical, growing need for robust, specialized cybersecurity in these OT environments.
Yeah, that's definitely something to watch. Finally, the episode brings it back to something we've heard before, but it's clearly still a massive vulnerability.
Yeah.
Us, the human element.
Yep, always. No matter how sophisticated our tech defenses become, Social engineering attacks.
Tricking people.
Exactly. Tricking people into giving up sensitive info, clicking bad links, running malicious software, letting attackers in. It's likely to remain a highly effective tactic.
Because it targets psychology, not just code.
Precisely. So investing in good, comprehensive security awareness training, fostering a security-conscious culture in organizations, even just among individuals at home, it's absolutely crucial.
Technology alone isn't enough.
Never has been, likely never will be. Human vigilance is a critical layer of defense. Always.
So to sort of wrap things up here, it really sounds like the future of cybersecurity is just constant change, a really complex landscape.
Mm-hmm. Constantly shifting, heavily influenced by these powerful emerging technologies, and this ongoing adaptive battle between attackers and defenders.
Man, ahead seems tough.
It requires a proactive, forward-thinking mindset, a commitment to continuous learning, adapting as threats and defenses evolve, and collaboration helps too, sharing information, best practices.
So embrace the tech, but stay vigilant.
Embrace innovation while prioritizing security. That's key to navigating these challenges.
Definitely a lot to think about. And it really highlights why it's so important for all of us, whether you're a tech expert or just an everyday internet user, to stay informed and be vigilant.
It really does. The security and resilience of our digital future kind of depend on it.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. Considering these rapid advancements we talked about, especially in both offensive and defensive AI, what do you think will be the most significant turning point in cybersecurity over the next, say, decade? Will it be some massive AI-powered attack that forces a fundamental shift? Or maybe a breakthrough in AI-driven defense that finally gives the good guys a decisive advantage? Something to think about.